Hello, and on this raining afternoon, I am going to be seeing the new Paul Walker film, Brick Mansions. Actually, the previews have already started, and I'm still in the car because I ran really late getting to the theater. That's okay, they're just the previews, and anyway, I don't have much to say about my expectations for this movie because I don't know anything about it. I've never seen a Paul Walker film. I've never seen any of the Fast and the Furious movies, so yeah, literally no idea what to expect. I've seen the trailer only a couple times, surprisingly enough, so far this year. It looks like your generic action flick. The only other thing I really know about it is that it's either a ripoff or an actual remake of an action film from the early 2000s. I don't know, because I don't know what that action film is. Well, hey, let's go see this thing and see how it is. I'll see you after the movie. Got really windy outside. Alright, I just got back from seeing Paul Walker film Brick Mansions. And it wasn't very good. And that's it. Alright, bye. No, that'd be great, wouldn't it? No, I'm not gonna do that though. Okay, Brick Mansions was a really, really corny action movie. Stylish, but really corny. I didn't like it, which I don't know if I want to say I expected it. I expected to not like it. I expected to hate it. And I can't really say that I hated it, but I did not like it. And this is the first Paul Walker movie I've ever seen. I've never seen any of the Fast and the Furious movies. So as much as I would like to draw comparisons to those movies, I haven't seen them. Can't really make too many comments. I will say though that the Fast and the Furious movies have to be somewhat like this movie. This movie had a lot of, like, really nice cars in it, is what I mean. Like, really nice cars. Like, people living in this kind of dystopian ghetto shouldn't have cars this nice, and it's weird that they do. And they are driving very fast a lot of the times. That seems to be, like, what maybe a fifth of this movie was dedicated to, was showing really nice cars. So a smaller portion, like at least 2/3 of the movie, was dedicated to the cheesy action scenes. At least 2/3. Holy crap! Yeah, there were so much. There's a lot of action in this movie, and if you want to go see a movie just for the action, I have found your perfect movie, because the plot is like really thin, like super thin. The characters are super thin, paper thin. And, yeah. Those are the biggest issues. Like, it's thinly plotted, lots of action. The action's kind of good. The stunts are really good. The stunts in this movie are really, really cool. They're really implausible. Like, you got guys freaking jumping from the roof of a car inside the car, and then vice versa, jumping from inside the car to outside the car onto the roof, and that kind of crap. In one scene, a guy is riding the car by holding on to the trunk of the car while the car is going at 80 miles an hour. You got that kind of stuff. So yeah, those stunts are really implausible, but they look good. But the actual action, like fist to fist or fist hand to hand combat in this movie is not that good. It's shot kind of well, and the action scenes can be edited fairly well, but the actual hand to hand combat in this movie isn't that impressive at all. Like, if you were to watch any martial arts movie or any Jackie Chan movie, which, by the way, this movie ripped off a lot of Jackie Chan movies, particularly Rush Hour, when the guy gets his arm handcuffed to the wheel of a car, and he takes the wheel off the car, and he uses the wheel as a weapon. The steering wheel, not like a tire. Yeah, if you've seen Rush Hour, you've seen that stunt, and they did it better in Rush Hour because Jackie Chan's awesome. But yeah, they were ripping off a lot of Jackie Chan, and except that the hand-to-hand combat isn't as good as in a Jackie Chan movie. Why this is, I don't know. I don't know if the director, a girl director, surprisingly, I don't know if she didn't know how to direct an action sequence like that. I don't know if they had a fight choreographer who was that experienced. I don't know if they had if it seemed like they were actually using the actors in the fight choreography. So I don't know if it was that they weren't experienced enough, or if they didn't have the skills necessary to have good hand-to-hand combat. I don't know what the issue was, but the hand-to-hand combat is largely unimpressive. And part of the reason for that, I think, too, is the fact that in a lot of action movies like this, people will get the crap beaten out of them. Or so they should be, but they walk away without a scratch on them. It's not like Die Hard, where every time he gets punched, it hurts him afterwards. No, in movies like this, they could get kicked to the face, and a second later, they're fine. They're not even bleeding. And that, it takes out the plausibility of the action sequence. It takes us out of the movie and makes us realize we're watching a movie, and we go, oh, these are just stunts. I mean, pro wrestling is better than this, isn't it? Like, when you see a pro wrestling match and someone gets kicked to the face, it looks like it hurts them. In this movie, it doesn't really look like it hurts them. So there's no suspense. Plus, there's no suspense in this movie anyway, because the characters are so flat that we don't care about them. And these are problems that you really expect to have with a movie like this. And yeah, it had all of them. It had all the problems you would expect to have. There's not even a whole lot about this movie that's any good. The acting's okay. It's nothing... I wouldn't even say it's much better than okay. Like, the actors are doing their jobs, but that's about it. There's not a whole lot in the screenplay to give them. In the screenplay for them to work off of, and I'll get to this screenplay in a minute, believe me. There's not a whole lot for them in the screenplay for them to work off of, so they're just kind of saying lines and then beating the shit out of each other, so to speak. And that's all that's happening for most of this movie. You got some scenes of dialogue and some parts where I think they were trying to go for character development, but not a whole lot. And the actors, they're doing the best with what they have, and believe me, some of the lines that they have, they sold as well as anyone could, and probably better than some people could. I mean, these are really corny-ass lines. They're awful lines. This screenplay for this movie was written by Luc Besson, who is a French movie director and writer, who is most famous for his amazing film called Leon the Professional. And if you've ever seen Leon the Professional, then you know that it's an awesome action movie that's really not about the action. It's about the characters and how they are dealing with their situation and how they are dealing with the fact that they are put in circumstances where they have to fight their way out. Which is the total opposite of this movie. Leon the Professional feels like it was written by a person who understood characters and story structure. This movie felt like it was written by a 13-year-old. And there was another screenwriter credited with Luc Besson, and I'm not even 100% sure that he helped write this movie. It might have been that he wrote the original film, which I mentioned in the intro, and they just gave him a writing credit because of that. I'm just not sure, and I can't remember who the other writing credit went to, and I can't remember who. Well, no, I haven't seen the original film, so, and I don't know if he wrote that. And if he did, or if he didn't, I'm sure someone will be happy to correct me. But yeah, this movie felt like it was written by a 13-year-old. Especially with all the freaking stunts that were going on. It just seems like a 13-year-old kid sat down and was like, and then he jumped from the roof of the car inside the car, and then he pushed the policeman out of the car, and he started driving himself. Not to mention the fact that there's a lot of this movie that's I don't want to make the accusation of stolen, so I'll just say borrowed from other films. Like I mentioned how they stole that moment from Rush Hour earlier. As I was watching the movie, I started making a mental list of all the movies that they were ripping off of. And that's a nice game that you can play if you go see this movie after watching my review. Go see this movie and then try to see some of these movies that it's ripping off of. Movies like, just from what I've seen in trailers, the Fast and the Furious movies. Also, definitely Spider-Man 2. Definitely The Dark Knight Rises at one point. More than one point. Let's see, what else? What else did this movie rip off of? Rush Hour. Probably Rush Hour 2. The Matrix a couple of times. I think even The Bourne Identity at one point. Any movie where you've ever had the undercover cop, this movie rips off of. So yeah, and it's unoriginal garbage. It really is. At the end of my review for The Other Woman, which I saw last night, I mentioned that. Where was I going with this? Holy crap! No, I remember I mentioned that The Other Woman is like the chick flick, the stereotypical chick flick of the month, I'll say. And this one's the stereotypical dude flick, and I recognize that was probably what was going to be when I went into this movie, and after seeing it, yeah, definitely was that. It's really catering to the male ego. I mean, you got the high endurance action sequences, you have the car chases, you have the really nice cars, and you have Paul Walker, who just seems to be like the embodiment of all these things. The only thing I was actually surprised that this didn't have like helicopters going into sunset or anything like that, because this movie was like 3 shots away from me swearing I was watching a Michael Bay movie. Like that's how bad it gets. You might notice I'm drinking more water than usual. It's because in the last couple of reviews I shot afterwards, I felt really, really dehydrated. I think it's just from all the talking. So this movie it's not good. There's not anything good to say about it, really. it's coherent most of the time. I can say that about it. It's largely coherent. The editing's okay for the most part. It could have been better, but it was okay. It's sometimes the cinema. I don't want to say the cinematography was good, but like it looked pretty. Like it was well lit, and that's what I mean. Because it's not brilliant. Nothing in this movie is brilliant by any stretch of the imaginations. Nothing in this movie is really good, including the cinematography. But it is well lit. I would talk about the audience's reaction with this movie as I usually try to do, but there were 2 other people in the theater, and they were pretty much silent the whole time. I think they laughed at a joke towards the end of the movie that it had, so maybe they thought, it's pretty good. I'm actually trying really hard to find more stuff to say about it. It's just bad. Like, it's just... I hate the word boring, and I don't want to use that word. But there's so much nonstop action going on all the time, and we don't care about any of it. And there's so much of it that it gets to the point where it's exhausting to watch. And not in a good way, like in a Bourne Identity movie where afterwards we're like, oh, wow, what an adventure we just went through. It's exhausting to watch in the fact that we don't care, and there's so much implausible bullcrap going on that's just meant to be cool. That afterwards, it's sitting through it, while I won't say is painful, it's exhausting. It's a workout just to sit through it and watch it all, because it's just a bunch of crap we don't care. It's like if a guy edited together a bunch of his, like, stupid, dumb jockey stunts that he put on YouTube. You know, those guys who put all their dumb shit on YouTube, like they're riding on a bicycle and they go over a friggin' ramp or some shit, and they put every moment of that on YouTube. And it's like that person edited together a 90-minute movie and was like, oh, here, watch this, and you tried to sit through it. That's what this movie feels like, because, again, we don't care about any of the characters or any of the plot that's going on. So... That's about it. That's about all I can say about it. It was written by a 13-year-old. I swear to God it was. The dialogue is utter crap and nonsense. Oh, Men in Black. I forgot. They ripped out that movie. You know how in Men in Black there's a part where Agent K says, Agent J, better put on a seatbelt, and he's like, doesn't he? He's like, suit yourself. Yeah, they have that almost exact exchange timed out exactly in the same way in this movie. It's stupid. It's really stupid. Like, the characters do things that don't even make sense to the characters. The villain is just stereotypical misunderstood guy, really, by the end, which comes out of nowhere at the end. Spoiler. Spoiler. At the end of the movie, we find out that the main villain wasn't really a bad guy. He was just, the product of the times he was living in, and he ends up running for mayor at the end because they were like, oh yeah, he's really a good guy. It's the system that's corrupt. It's dumb. It has a lousy ending. It has a really stupid ending. Not that it's like disappointing, because I didn't care enough, but it's just a stupid ending. But the whole movie is like equally stupid, pretty much. So I don't feel right complaining about it. And that's Brick Mansions. If you want to see it, there might be stuff to fit you if you're not looking for a highly intelligent film. If you're looking for any kind of intelligence in your filmmaking, though, yeah, stay clear of this one. Stay very clear of this one. That's all I gotta say about it, man. Have a good time in the movies. Next time will be The Quiet Ones. Can't wait for this horror movie piece of junk that's getting terrible reviews. I don't know. It's gotta be better than the last two movies I reviewed, though.